Good morning. So Pirkei Avos really ends at the end of Perek Chamishi, the fifth Perek, the last two Mishnayos. A very interesting Ben Bagbag Oimer, very famous saying. Ben Bagbag says, "Hafachbach v'hafachbach dekulod boy." It comes to Torah, a person should look at Torah from all different aspects. There's so much in Torah. There's so many different sides and aspects to the Torah, that a person could get all the knowledge that he possibly needs in the world, all comes from Torah, right? There's the famous story of the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish was known as was a Gadol with Torah. He was one of the greatest leaders of the generation at the time, but he also had tremendous knowledge in science and math and in medical situations. And there's a famous story where there was a lady who had a brain tumor, and they wanted to operate on her, and her husband went to the Chazon Ish, and the Chazon Ish said, "No, don't do it. Don't do it this way, don't do it that way." And there was a doctor who was highly insulted. He said, "Some old man in Bnei Brak is telling me what to do. He never went to medical school. He doesn't know anything about science, about medical." And he went to see the Chazon Ish. He was not a firm person. And he was so impressed by the Chazon Ish knowledge of his medical knowledge, he ended up becoming a Talmud of the Chazon Ish. He ended up becoming a Baal Tshuva, and he became very close to the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish wrote, I have a picture, I took a picture of it last night. There's a famous picture where the Chazon Ish wrote on a napkin, on a small piece of paper on his desk when the doctor came to him, and drew a diagram of the brain and exactly how he should do the surgery, which way he should do it. He can't do it this way, can't do it that way. And he showed him, he said, right, he wrote over here, don't do it this way, b'gnei shezeh pekuach nefesh. It would be very dangerous. And how did the Chazon Ish get to know all this knowledge? Everything was from the Torah. The Chazon Ish never went to medical school, he never read medical journals. Everything a person needs is in the Torah. On a personal note, my father by trade was a mathematician. And at one point he started to write a book. He didn't start writing, he started translating. The Vilna Gaon wrote a math book. It's called Eilam Mishulish, a 200-page pamphlet that the Chazon Ish wrote about all the intricacies of mathematics. Very, very complicated concepts of mathematics. And my father says that the Chafetz Chaim was about 200 years ahead of his time. He knew things that people didn't know until much later. Again, the Vilna Gaon did not read math books. It was very interesting. The last two chapters of the book talk about astronomy. And my father went to a lot of people because he did not understand it. He couldn't translate it. He went to a lot of people and people did not understand it. The one that was able to translate it for him took it, and within a couple of days, a week or two, gave it back to my father. All translated was Rabbi Yisrael Belsky. Rabbi Yisrael Belsky, who again never went to college and never studied, but it was all from the Torah. So we have to know that anything and everything that we need in life comes from the Torah. The Mishnah just ends with the next Mishnah. Everything is the effort that you put in. The amount of work that you put in ultimately is what's the deciding point. I once heard a very interesting shmooze. Somebody once told me that Rabbi Akiva Eiger, before he died, he wrote a will. And he wrote it in a few different languages, and he had it notarized and sealed with the government seal because he didn't want it to change. He didn't want them to change it, so it became a legal document. In this document, he wrote what to write on his matzeva when he dies. And he wrote on his matzeva that he didn't want any titles, Rav Agoyin or anything like this. As Rabbi Akiva Eiger, Melamed Torah. He was a teacher, a learner of Torah. Mitoich Isurim Rav, with great pain and anguish, Migil Shloishase Oya Barase, from the age of 13 or 14. That's what he want written. So somebody once said, I don't understand. What does it mean? He learned Torah for a tremendous pain from 13 or 14. Was it 13? Was it 14? So he said, this Mashgiach once said, he heard from, I think Revolva said it. He said the Akiva Eiger, who's the great Akiva Eiger, was concerned whether the Yisurim Rav that he has, we know that he was a very sickly child, he was a very sickly person, very weak. He wasn't sure if that was at 13, if that was Yisurim Rav, Or maybe 13 was okay still, but by 14 already for sure, it was Isurim Ram. Interesting, I once went to the museum over here in Borough Park, the Living Torah Museum, and if you go to the Living Torah Museum, he has a copy of this sealed, certified will tzavah from Rabbi Akiva. That's the way you become a Rabbi Akiva. That's the way you become a great person. There's no shortcuts in life. You put an effort in the Torah, you'll get everything that you need in life. You should all have a wonderful day. Hatzlacha.